The next big news topic we're going to focus on, lads, is what on earth is going on at Manchester United and Arsenal. These two perennial giants, heavyweights of the Premier League, are struggling. They're in transition, of course. United are kind of piecing it together just when they need to pull out a big result. Solskjaer always seems to be able to deliver it. But Arsenal have had a really poor start to the season, especially from an attacking perspective. And that was never the problem with Arsenal. Mikel Arteta's come in. He's shored things up defensively. But now Aubameyang looks like a totally different player, looks lost out there. The fluidity's gone. So early in the season, I think fans of both of these teams are really worried about not only, this is meant to be the season they kicked on, right? United turned from top 4 team into a title contender, and Arsenal to be, no longer just looking to sneak in the Europa League or win the FA Cup, but actually get back into the top 4. So Andy Edwards, these giants rebuilding, Arsenal in particular, what do you think about where they're at right now in their sort of rebuild under Arteta?
Yeah, this is not your Grandpa Arson's Arsenal team, is it? I mean, it really is not. And you hit on it there, Joe. It's the lack of goals. It's the lack of scoring chances. It's the lack of creativity, the lack of fluidity. Anything that you associate with Arsenal over the last 30 years, they're not doing it right now. And it's a very difficult situation to be in. We've seen it play out at the other club we're talking about here, Manchester United, over the last, 7 or 8 years now since Sir Alex Ferguson left, and what the succession plan was going to be there. Were they going to because the identity of the team was the manager, right? And it was Ferguson's way of playing, Wenger's way of playing. That was the identity. So when those two giant figures leave, is that still the identity of the club, or do they take that with them? And I don't think either of these clubs really had an answer for that question. I don't think they knew what to do. Do we just continue trying to be the same thing, or do we have to kind of not reinvent ourselves, but find who we are under someone else? And they've not been able to do that at Arsenal under Unai Emery, and early days still, to be fair, under Mikel Arteta, but they're painful to watch. They are absolutely painful to watch. And I have no love lost for Arsenal. I'll be the first to admit it. But the entirety of the last 10 years, certainly, and even longer than that, you can enjoy watching them as a neutral. If you could ignore the shirts and the faces and the names on them, you could enjoy watching them. What is the redeeming quality about this Arsenal team right now? Because I'm looking again at the expected goals numbers here, 6th from bottom in terms of expected goals for. And as much as they're selling out to defend, they're bottom half in expected goals allowed as well. There's still a level of just being a little naive, I think, from them, while not creating chances and scoring goals at the other end. At least you could always point to that with them, that, well, they didn't have the tough defensive mentality, but they score goals. They're fun to watch. They're neither now.
Nick, who's in the worst spot here, Arsenal or Manchester United?
It's a terrific question. I think technically United is, but Arsenal needs to find something. Just a quick point on them. We saw it in Liverpool kind of gave us a blueprint of trying to lock down Aubameyang as a left wing. And that was in a 4-3-3. We've seen a 3-4-3 try to change that up. We've seen him on the right side to try to change it up. I'd like to see him at center forward. He's had a lot of success there in his career. Maybe see a couple different wingers on there. Willian's obviously very good with service. But United, the reason I think there's a problem there is you might not like the way Arsenal is playing right now, and that's totally understandable. But at least there is a system. It looks like they're building towards a system with the Thomas buy. With United, it seems like the philosophy under Solskjaer is this is Man United. We're a very big club. Sir Alex told us that, and now I tell the guys that, so we should be fine most weeks. And I just I don't think that's going to work for them in the long run. It's a philosophy is great. A philosophy without a system is nothing.
And for Solskjaer, his comments after the win at Everton were quite telling. He came out, slamming the scheduling of when they're playing, and it was almost that Sir Alex siege mentality again, right? I know everyone's talking about my future. I know everyone's talking about Pochettino perhaps coming in to replace me. So I'm going to spin it around and make all of the news about what I've said, and then other managers actually come out and backed him, which we'll talk about later. And it is those little mind games. But Solskjaer, for me, like you said, there's no real philosophy. There was at the start. It was counter-attacking, and this is great. But as soon as teams sit back and they realise that's what United are going to do under Solskjaer, they haven't got an answer. They just try and put star players into the team that's pretty much how they got into the top 4 last season. It was just they had Bruno Fernandes coming in. It was brilliant, and he clicked with Martial and Greenwood and Rashford, and they were better defensively last season. But it's almost, there is no plan at Manchester United. It hasn't been for a long time, and it must be so frustrating for fans of United looking around, even at Arsenal, and saying, well, they at least have a plan. We know where they're going with it. And they have improved defensively, even though they lost 3-0 at home to Villa. Generally, they have improved defensively, but the balance isn't there. But I would hazard a guess that Arsenal will get that balance back. The attacking players will figure it out. They will find out the right, combinations in the attack and in the wide areas, especially. So, yeah, I think we all agree, right, that Man United are in a much worse place long term than Arsenal.
Yeah, but they're both two very, hand to mouth living clubs, right? Because they have massive revenues and they tend to spend a lot. I mean, their wage bills alone eat into a lot of that. But at some point, if Arsenal don't finish top 4 this year, that'll make 5 years outside the Champions League. That's a lot of lost revenue for a club the size of Arsenal and that spends the way that they do. United have been in and out, and so they have managed to stay afloat. If they don't get in again, that's always a big hit for them, and it just, at some point, it's going to affect the level of players that they're able to sign, and then they're going to have to do a rebuild with an actual plan, like a good plan, a plan that's really thorough, and they can make good buys and good signings rather than just the biggest names that they can get.
And I think the one interesting thing this season is that there are a lot of contenders floating in and around the top 6 and the top 4. Leicester City, Wolves, maybe not quite Southampton, but there's other teams who've had a good start to the season who will make it more difficult for them to make up this ground they've lost early in the season, because they have the Champions League, they have the Europa League, their squad is stretched very thin already. There's been key injuries. So this season almost is very, very important for the way both of these teams are set up, right, for the next few years. Because, like you said, Andy, if Arsenal now don't take that next step and get into the Champions League, the pressure already starts to build on Arteta. And for United and Solskjaer, it's just a necessity. You have to, with the money that's spent, the money they're losing throughout all of this, they have to be at the very minimum in the Champions League. I mean, maybe the balance in the books doesn't quite tell you that, because they've still gone out and spent a lot of money this summer. But I'd hazard a guess that if Solskjaer and United aren't in a very good position by the time January rolls around, then that's when we'll see Mauricio Pochettino roll up. So, Nick Mendola, any final thoughts on the future for these two teams?
Yeah, just you're going to start to see more and more the players echo the coach, especially as the siege mentality kicks in. And we heard Harry Maguire say that. By the way, he's been quite good. I think I want to point that out again. We talked a little bit last week, but he's been a difference for them. But he talked about them being the biggest club in the world, and that's why people are always talking about them. I wonder how long that can last, though. If the results drop off at some point, it's, we're the biggest club in the world, and people are always talking about us because we're not that great.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. There's a lot of talk, obviously, transition and the bigger teams trying to figure it out. So a lot of twists and turns ahead, and to see who can actually finish in the top 4. And this season, more than any other season, we're going to see some surprises, right? So it's going to be very, very interesting, lads.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe. Make sure you subscribe to watch highlights all season long, and always join us every weekend at 7 a.m. on NBCSN for Premier League mornings. Plus, make sure you subscribe to Peacock Premium as well, where you can watch exclusively live 175 games and same-day on-demand replays of all 380 Premier League matches as well.